So good morning, everyone. I see some familiar names in the list. As Harry said, my name is Tim Kramer. I am the MEP guy at Microsol Resources, and I'm also a Autodesk certified instructor, which is rather a new accomplishment for me. What we're going to do today is basically go over a combined presentation of what's new in Autodesk MEP or AutoCAD MEP and Revit MEP, but anybody who's been using these products for a little while now and has been paying attention knows that technically there really isn't a Revit MEP anymore. It's really going to, what I'm going to be showing you is the MEP portion of Revit. And as far as AutoCAD MEP is concerned, for those listeners on the call here today, you're probably aware of the fact that AutoCAD MEP gets less and less improvements as the years go on, and this year unfortunately is no different. So a lot of what I'm going to end up showing you in AutoCAD MEP is actually changes or enhancements that have been made to the core AutoCAD program, which I've pulled out a few items that I feel are of value to the MEP folks. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at this next slide. The first thing I just want to kind of touch on here is the fact that, each version of AutoCAD or AutoCAD MEP that comes out, or any Autodesk product in reality, I mean, every year they're coming out with new and, better, releases, enhancements, and so forth. And one of the things that, that is really the case with 2015 is that it's really not about, what additions have you made to the software, what additional bells and whistles have you added. It's more about boosting the productivity. So they've refined the user interface. It's going to look a lot different than what you've seen in past versions. And I guess the one big thing that they've done with 2015 is they've added this reality capture capability. So you're going to be able to incorporate existing conditions a lot easier in the 2015 products. So jumping along here, it's just going to be a real quick highlight of some of the things that AutoCAD 2015 offers. This refined interface. Like I said, it's a huge change. Basically, there were studies done that have come back with the decision that instead of this bright white interface with black print, it's easier on the eyes if it's black with white print. So they've actually switched this. Of course, if you really want to go back to the old classic, you can do that. But we'll see this in reality once I bring up the software here shortly. Whoops, wrong button. Going to another overview of some of the enhancements. They've modified the help window. Something that's pretty interesting is that they've allowed you now to be able to add or attach geographic information, which, in past versions of AutoCAD, it used to be somewhat limited to, say, an AutoCAD MEP product or Civil 3D or something of that nature. But now you have some very cool tools inside of AutoCAD that you can turn around and bring in some information so that you kind of know where you're at in the real world. So that's a nice feature. There have been a lot of productivity tools that have been enhanced. And as I said before, this whole reality thing, being able to capture data such as, points that were scanned and bring them into your AutoCAD drawings. So here's a quick picture of the new interface. As I said, it's a white on black background, and it is a lot more pleasing to the eye. If you take a look at this, I think once I open up the software, you'll kind of agree. Now, as far as the interface itself is concerned, there is a new tab button that I'm going to show you here in a second, as well as the dark theme. There are some improvements with the ribbon and with the help tools. There's some changes with the layout, the way the layout tabs show up, as well as the status bar and layer list. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to AutoCAD real quick, see if this works for me. There we go. So what you should be seeing is AutoCAD MEP, basically the landing page. When you open up AutoCAD MEP for the first time, you're going to see this thing up here in the in the upper left-hand corner this new tab. And that basically is what gives you the ability to either get started, with a new drawing, or open any existing files or projects, as well as your recent documents, anything that you may have had opened, recently, and then any notifications that you might be presented with. And one thing I might want to bring your attention to is the fact that my graphics performance is turned off inside of AutoCAD MEP at this very moment. I think I might have been having some trouble with it earlier, so I turned it off. But it's telling you that it could improve the performance of the software if I was to turn it on. Right now, I have Revit and AutoCAD open, so I think they're, if you've been in any of my classes, you know that these two compete for resources. So you'd never want to have both programs open at the same time. So basically, I decided to turn off the graphics, the hardware acceleration in AutoCAD to kind of let Revit do its thing. But what I'm going to go ahead and bring your attention to is as I said, the layout. I'm going to go ahead and open up a drawing that I had open before, and just let you see here that and we'll ignore that for now. The tabs where you used to grab your layout tabs, they used to be on the bottom. Now they're on the top. So as we would add additional tabs, that would show up across the top instead of the bottom. Some of the other features that they were talking about, as far as the help file, some of the improved graphics within this new interface, I'm going to show you. I'm going to kind of flip back and forth between the PowerPoint and AutoCAD, and hopefully that's going to work so we can kind of keep track of what we're doing as far as the specifics. So let's see here. So we've seen this. Under the improved graphics, there is some improvements with the line smoothing. One of the things that I'm particularly interested in is this new lasso option, which I think is pretty cool, and we'll see that here in a bit, as well as the 3D orbit target point. So again, I'm going to switch back over to AutoCAD. And as far as the lasso, if I wanted to, you still have the ability to basically create anything inside of a window. Oops. If I get this right here, if I pick 2 points and go left to right, you basically are creating a window selection set. That's the way it's always been. If I was to go from right to left, I'm going to create a crossing selection set. Again, that's the way it's always been. But what's really cool now is if you hold the left click button down, you can create a lasso effect and only create a fence with this lasso selection that you couldn't obviously do before. So you're going to spend less time trying to add or remove items to your selection set with this new lasso capability, which is pretty cool. Also, the 3D capability, I'm going to go to, actually, see this 3D view here. A lot of times when you're trying to manipulate a 3D view, you end up, basically getting into a situation where you're orbiting the entire design, the entire drawing file. But what if you wanted to basically orbit around one particular point? Well, now there's this orbit setting. If you look down at my command line here, Orbit Auto Target. Okay, Orbit Auto Target is something that they've added, and it's turned on by default. I actually turned it off before I got on the call, but with it turned on, if I go back to the 3D view and I start pivoting, basically the pivot point of the 3D view is the center of the view. But if I go to Orbit Auto Target and turn that off, I can now select a point that will be my 3D view. So if I maybe right click on here and say 3D Orbit and then pick a point, it allows me to orbit around the point that I've selected. So I think that's going to be real useful for you folks that are working inside of a 3D view. It's going to come in really handy so that you don't have to try moving around in this clunky full-size view if you don't need the access that it's giving you. So again, back to the PowerPoint. There's a lot of new improvements as far as the creation and editing tools. There's a few things here that that really won't apply as much to AutoCAD MEP as it will for AutoCAD, but again, it's good to know that these functions have been improved in the core product, so you're going to see that inside of AutoCAD MEP as well. Another one that's been improved is the Mtext creation, and I'll show you a couple of these here in a second. But basically, when you launch the Mtext editor now, there's a certain transparency to it, so you don't leave anything or lose anything behind it. You can also do auto bullets and numbering. It has smart AutoCAD's capability. The fractions are pretty cool. I think I'll go ahead and show you a little bit of that. And you can also do some match properties within the contextual tab of the Mtext editor. So again, switching back over to AutoCAD, if I was to start and go back to a plan view here, and if I was to start the text and create an Mtext object, and maybe I'll just start typing in some generic text here. Fractions are pretty amazing now, because when you start typing in a fraction, notice this little lightning bolt that you see here underneath of the fraction. When I click on that, I have the ability to go from a horizontal or to a diagonal fraction, and I also have the ability to unstack if I wanted to do that after it automatically stacked, and then I can go into the stack properties and control the style of that stacking as well as the position, whether it's top, center, bottom, and then you can even adjust the size of the text. How much space is it going to take up when it does do its stacking? So that's a pretty nice feature here. So again, just kind of a high level. That's interesting. A high level, look at some of the different additions inside of AutoCAD. We'll go ahead and switch back over to the PowerPoint. Take a look at the slide that they gave us for the geographic locations. Again, you can actually insert maps from within the standard AutoCAD ribbon template, or the ribbons now, and it has been streamlined, and I've used it. It's actually pretty sharp. It works much better than it has in the past. Oops. Keep hitting the wrong buttons here. I'm trying to work fast in case you didn't realize. I mean, as far as the time is concerned, when we're talking about multiple different products and trying to leave time for Q&A at the end if possible, I don't want to spend too much time on each slide. So again, reality capture, that is something that comes with AutoCAD or AutoCAD MEP. It doesn't matter which product you have. It will be a separate installation, but when you install it, it allows you to bring in point clouds. Again, a lot of people are like, what are point clouds? Basically, if you were to take a 3D laser scanner, set it inside of a room or inside a facility, and let that thing run, what it's doing is it's shooting out a beam of light, and every point that it hits, it's bringing back information to the scanner. The scanner records it, and it gets these values built into it that allows the scanner to produce, along with software, a point cloud. So every point that exists inside of a point cloud file has value and distance and other information related to it, and that point cloud is something that can be brought into AutoCAD, AutoCAD MEP, Revit, doesn't matter, and you can actually see and touch and get dimensions off of these points. So if you're the type of person that has to go out into the field and take measurements and you forgot something, or maybe you were smart enough to take a camera and you could see it, but you can't figure out what size it is or what dimension it is, point clouds, take it to a whole nother level. And now with this new reality capture software, this thing called Recap, it basically allows you to work with point clouds in ways that you've never been able to do before. And in this next scan, you'll see, or this next image here, you see a scan, essentially, of a point cloud. And in the 2013 products, it was capable of producing a point cloud or handling a point cloud up to 2 billion points. Now, in the 2015 product, they've taken it, to another limit here, 20 billion plus points. And you can see, basically, from the 2013, the 2014, and now 2015, the clarity of one of these point clouds, it's gotten to the point where it almost looks like an image. And within the reality capture software, you have all sorts of things related to being able to locate this image or this point cloud, where it is in space, using the proper coordinates and so forth. And you can they've made a lot of improvements to the software. So if you're one of those who has purchased one of the suites, the Autodesk Building Design suites, and you have the recap, it might be something for you to check out, because it can be very useful for retrofit type projects. The next slide here is regarding the design feed, which Harry touched on. Well, actually not Harry, but the design feed tool, I think, was introduced in 2014. Could be wrong, maybe it was 2013, but it's basically a live feed within AutoCAD where you can work with other users and be able to chat and exchange information back and forth. A couple of improvements that have been made to this is now drawings are stored locally, and you have the ability to save comments with the drawing files. Another slide here. This one, actually, I believe Reed Addis, that I share space with here in Philadelphia, he put this together because one of the things that is new for AutoCAD, the vanilla version of AutoCAD, is that there is no AutoCAD Classic workspace anymore. So if you're one of those type of people who used to get the new software and basically go and change the workspace, you're like, oh, I don't like these ribbons. Let's get rid of them. Let's go back to the toolbars and switch to this AutoCAD Classic interface. That's no longer available. The only way you can basically get that is to migrate some of the CUI settings. Another thing for 2015 is related to the educational plot stamp. And if you're any of those people who have dealt with the educational plot stamp in the past, you'll be glad to know that in the future version, this 2015 version, it's been removed. So you do have the ability now to be able to basically get rid of that without having to jump through hoops and do things that Autodesk didn't want us doing, to be able to utilize educational drawings that were created with educational products. And by no way am I condoning using an educational product for production, but there are those times when one of those drawing files that was created with an educational version creeps into your drawing set, and it can really become a nightmare. So this should alleviate some concerns for some people. And then last but not least on this list is the DGN line styles. If you're one of our tens and tens of clients who have reached out to us with issues with drawing files where they got very large, you were having problems trying to copy and paste from one DWG to another, we may have pointed you in the direction of a blog that Stephen Costa wrote on the DGN Purge tool, and it basically was another nightmare, where you basically had to install a little hotfix, and you had to run this hotfix on every drawing file and basically do a massive purge of data that was creeping into your drawings because of DGN line styles. And now in the purge dialog, we have an option to purge orphan data, so that should make things more simpler for dealing with that kind of stuff. And then the last thing related to the core application of AutoCAD is this new Autodesk Application Manager, and I'm going to show this to you when I open up AutoCAD again. Basically, it's a separate installation, but it runs in the taskbar and basically checks to see if your product is up to date. And I think a lot of people would come to me and say, well, how do I know if I have the latest service pack or web update? Because I was always telling people, hey, you got to make sure that you have the latest and greatest web updates and service packs and so forth. And they're like, well, how do I know? And I would always show them how they would go to the About menu and they would look there to see what they have. Well, now this Application Manager is hopefully going to make things easier on you, and you'll be able to basically, see that. And let me go ahead and switch over to AutoCAD so you can see that. All right, so in the the task tray down here, I have this thing right here called the Autodesk Application Manager, and if I click on it, nothing's going to happen. Earlier today, it actually popped up on me automatically to let me know that there were some updates. Because I closed out of it, it's not popping up automatically now, but if I go ahead and right-click and open that, you can see that there are actually quite a few new updates available. Some of these are not related to what products I have open at the moment, but this one right here, AutoCAD 2015 has just released on the 5th of this month a Service Pack 1. So that is now available, and that's not going to be something you're going to apply to MEP, but if there's one that's been released for AutoCAD, you can pretty much bet that there's going to be one being released for MEP here shortly. Something else to kind of look at here is that it will show you what's been released in past months. There was a security update that was released for Revit 2015 last month that is showing up as installed, and then even older than that, there is a update release 1 for Revit 2015 that was released on April 11th. Probably the earliest update I've seen for any new product as long as I've been working with Autodesk products. So don't be surprised if you're rolling out Revit 2015 and it's telling you that you need to install a service pack already. There's actually 2, as you can see here. There's the update release 1, which is essentially retired once you install this one. So that's the current one that I have, and my build date inside of Revit will reflect this release date. So again, you want to use this, and basically you can pick and choose when you want to have the updates installed, but I think it's going to make things a lot easier for people. So you don't have to go searching out on the web trying to find the latest update. This application manager will help do it for you. So switching back to the PowerPoint, now specific to MEP, here's the list. It is not very long. And basically, if you're not using the Project Navigator or some of these other tools, this may not mean a whole lot to you. I mean, as far as the Project Navigator is concerned, you now have the ability to check in and check out files and make sure that people aren't, trying to utilize the same files as you at the same time. It'll also allow you to be able to put in comments when you're checking in a file, so that people can fully understand the changes. So if I switch back over to AutoCAD MEP here, and I go ahead and bring up the Project Navigator, you can see here that I have a couple of constructs listed, and if I right-click on that, I have the ability now to check in and check out. So if I'm going to, maybe I want to work on this shell and core, and actually that's an architectural file, but let's just for giggles, we'll go ahead and maybe I'll try this one right here instead, this 2-line complete that I have open. If I right-click on that and I say check out, it basically, if you can see this, I'll zoom in. Notice the little green arrow here. Oop, that's a pretty big circle. The little green arrow that is showing up next to the construct that I checked out. It's basically letting me know that that file has been checked out for modification. You also have this check-in history down here on the bottom of the Project Navigator. If I click the little plus sign, it will expand it. Gives me the ability to, see the history of the check-in and check-out. It also gives me details. It's going to allow me to see a preview of the file if I wanted to see that. And if I come up here and I select it again and I say check in, now the little graphic next to that has changed, and you can, oops, really making a mess out of my scribbles here, but basically you have the ability to see when you've checked in and checked out. Whether you've even gone into a drawing file, you can do this inside of the Project Navigator. Now I have a couple of notes here. Other users have read-only access. They can view the last saved versions while the changes are being made. So again, while you're making changes to the file, you're you're not going to allow anybody else to be able to make changes or even use the one that you're working with. The changes that you make, they aren't visible to others. And also, as the checkout file is saved, no XREF reload notification is sent to others. So that kind of gives the rest of the team the ability to work on the files that they have to work on without having to worry about, what you're doing at the moment and trying to keep up with changes that might be taking place. A couple of other things as far as the visual indicators. So a red check mark will denote that the file is checked out by other users. So if I had another user using one of these files, it would be a red check mark, not a green check mark, which is what shows what I have checked out. And every time a file is checked in or out, a record on the version history identifies the user who performed the checkout. So if we were looking here, you can see that it was modified by me. And I can see that on the check-in and check-out history of this navigation or the project navigator. So that might come in handy as far as dealing with files over time. So let me go back to my drawing file here, and we'll talk about the the style search tools. So a couple of additional productivity enhancements for AutoCAD MEP relates to the style search tool, the viewer, and being able to import from other drawings a lot easier. So basically the dialog box has been enhanced. It's going to give you the ability to search content from any drawing and import them into the current drawing. You can also type a portion of the style name, and it will only list styles that have that in the name. So that it's basically going to give you the ability to use the style manager a little bit better. You can also import system definitions from virtually anywhere, whether it's on your local machine, a server, or even in the cloud, and then bring that into your current drawing very easily. The next one is the command preview fillet and chamfer. It basically is a control on the selection tab of the options dialog box that provides you quick feedback of the active command. So it shows you how the objects are going to look when the command is executed. As you make changes within the command, you can instantly see the results, which they're showing right here on the slide. Basically, you have two different options here, and it's showing you both as you're kind of working with that connection, and you're going to see what you get before you actually accept it. There's another comment here about the command preview for air terminals, panels, and other MEP objects. As you start moving or rotating them, you're going to see the preview as well. So that'll be nice. So it'll kind of help you see the end result before you actually accept it. Believe it or not, the last thing that has been provided this year for productivity enhancements relates, the EPD backup. That's basically, again, if you're using the project navigator, it's going to give you the ability to create extra copies of the EPD files, which are the electrical project database that the electrical folks are using. So it's basically going to allow you to be able to manage how many backups you want to maintain, and it's going to help mitigate any corruption that might be taking place if you do have, if you didn't have the ability to create multiple backups. So that'll be nice for some. And then as far as the visual compare is concerned, that's actually a tool that's going to allow you to be able to compare a previous file with an existing file, or a new file with a previous file, so that you can. There's a lot of different, a lot of new variables that were added, new system variables that were added, that actually gives you the ability to set the color for the new geometry when you're comparing, so you can kind of get a nice little, setup, so that when you're comparing files from one product or one drawing file to another, it does allow you to be able to see what's changed going forward. So again, I'm going to go ahead and switch right into Revit now. It's getting tight on time, so probably the majority of the people on the line are probably more interested in Revit. I'm just making an assumption here, but as you can see on the right-hand side, the mechanical. Let me see if I can get my pointer to work. Where is it? Just lost my pointer. Oh, there we go. So as you can see over here on the right-hand side, as far as the MEP enhancements inside of Revit, again, it's somewhat limited. But the reality is that all of these other platform enhancing items here are pretty good enhancements that I'm going to try to show a few of them to you as we go through and touch on them individually. So as far as the platform enhancements, we have a lot of different things that have happened with the documentation. You can now, the schedules have been enhanced so that you can start including, material takeoff, base constraints, offsets, top constraints, and offsets, and so forth. You can also include images in your schedules now, and I'm going to try to show you that here in a second. And that'll be something that might make some people pretty happy. When you are switching back and forth between your view, if you're looking at a sheet and you're switching back and forth between your active view and you want to deactivate the view, now instead of right-clicking to deactivate the view, you can actually double-click outside of the view to deactivate it. That was actually one of the wish list items that Autodesk has provided us. And another one that's really nice is that when you duplicate views, it will not put the word copy of in front of the name of the view that you duplicated. Now what it does is it creates a new view with the same exact name with copy 1 or copy 2 at the end of it. So you don't have to go looking for it for one. It's going to show up in your browser in the same basic alphabetical location that it was before, and all you have to do is modify the name that way. And the same thing applies when you're talking about dependent views. And then you can also change the referenced views very easily, that when you couldn't do that before, once it's been created, you can now change them. Let me see here. Keynoting has been improved, and then view parameter list has been expanded. So let me see if I can go ahead and show you that inside of Revit. So getting back to, let's see, I want to show you the schedule first. So let's say we have a plumbing fixture unit analysis schedule, and if I edit this schedule and I want to add an image, I can now add an image. We have that available field. So I'll go ahead and list the image at the very end. And if I wanted to add an actual picture to the lavatory, then for the men's room, I can click on this little ellipsis button here and browse, or basically, manage my images, but I need to add a new one. So I'm going to browse to the file that I downloaded earlier. There we go. We have a wall lavatory. So downloaded this from one of the manufacturer's websites. So if I go ahead and click OK, you see here that all it does is it just lists the image name. But when you are working on a sheet and you drag the schedule to the sheet, pretty big schedule, you'll notice now that there is the image. So that's pretty cool, the ability to show images on your schedules. That again was it was a hot item, so Autodesk added that to it, or added that to the new version. While I'm in the project browser, I'm going to go ahead and right-click and duplicate this, so that you can see that when I duplicate the view, what it does is it shows me first floor HVAC plan with copy 1 at the tail end of it. So that'll be nice so that I don't have to go searching for it instead of finding the copy of. And I think that's enough for now. Let me go back to the PowerPoint. Oops. Here we go. So, did I jump up? Move too far? Actually, yeah. There is another one under documentation tools that has to do with ISC importing. There's been a lot of changes with the ISC importing, that I just wanted to show you real quick in Revit. So one thing, if you were to try to open an IFC file, you now have this option to auto-join elements. So if you've had to work inside of Revit and work with an architect that is using AutoCAD or some other program other than Revit, this little button right here will potentially, make things easier for you. Oops. And you also now have the ability to link an IFC file using the Insert tab. So we have that option. And now also under the Manage Links, you have an IFC tab inside of the Manage Links dialog box. So you basically have the ability to manage your IFC files a lot better than what you ever did before. And while I'm in here, I'm getting ahead of myself, but notice also that there is an Add button inside of the Manage Links dialog box, and that shows up on the Revit, IFC, CAD formats tabs. It does not show up on the DWF markups or the point clouds tab, but that has been added so that you don't have to go out of this dialog box and link a file separately. You can now do it within the dialog box. So going back to the PowerPoint, go to the next slide here. Oh yes, the enhanced hidden lines. There's a new parameter in the properties of a view that will allow you to be able to control the hidden lines, give you more control of the hidden lines. So it basically is going to give you the ability to, let me show you here. Here we go. Currently, the setting, what I have here is a mechanical discipline view, and I have show hidden lines. The default setting is by discipline. So if I click on the drop down, you'll notice that it's by discipline and none. But if I change over to, let's say, a 3D view, I had a 3D view here I wanted to show you, and maybe I'll go ahead and get rid of the architectural link just real quickly for a second here. Now again, this is a mechanical discipline. If I change it to coordination, notice that show hidden lines, now I have the ability to change this from by discipline. Oh, I got to apply it first. By discipline to all. So you can actually control the hidden lines. When you're in a coordination view or a coordination discipline, you can control whether the hidden lines are by discipline or by all. And as you can see here, when I switch that to all, or actually none, it's all. Now I have the ability to see the hidden lines in all of my light fixtures and ducts as well on this one view, just by this one setting. So again, it just gives you more control than what you had before. Going back to the PowerPoint, next slide, revision improvements. This is pretty nice because you can delete revisions and you can also control the arc length. So again, inside of Revit, I'll go to a plan view. And then if I go to my Manage tab, actually View tab, and click on Revisions, here is the button that they've added. So if I add one and then I turn around and want to delete it, I can now do that. And also you have the ability to control the arc length. So now if I go back into my plan view and I want to go ahead and start drawing a revision cloud, I have the ability to hit the space bar and flip the cloud, or I'm sorry, not the cloud, the arcs inside, outside, and based on the settings in the revision settings, I now have the ability to control the size of those arcs. So that will be some welcome changes to the revision tool. Back to the PowerPoint. We already showed you that one, images and schedules. Also, building element energy analysis. This is a pretty big one. I don't know how many people out there are actually utilizing Revit MEP to the extent for building energy analysis, but basically, Harry already showed you some shortcuts, related to the some additional webinars that we have coming up. I would definitely recommend joining in on that if you are interested in taking this to another level, because Revit can do a lot more now than what it ever could do before. It basically takes advantage of your subscription your subscription account and utilizes Green Building Studio. So you can come up with all different kinds of scenarios. The ISC linking, I just showed you that as well. We don't have to talk about that. We also saw this as well, the Manage Links dialog. Pinned elements enhancements. This is a good one real quick. You now have the ability to control whether or not you have the ability to do anything with a pinned element. So, for example, if I was to select my link and I decided I wanted to delete it by mistake, now the warning is not going to allow you to delete the pinned object and then just give you a warning, hey, you just deleted a pinned object. It actually tells you have to unpin them before using the delete tool. So that's nice. And then being able to choose whether or not you want to even be able to select a pinned element, that might be another way of just controlling, what you're able to do or not do when it comes to dealing with linked files. Family parameter order adjustment. Now when you create family parameters, it will automatically put it in order for you. This was a big customer request. You can also add tooltips when you're creating parameters. So down here on the right-hand side, you can see that the tooltip description of the parameter properties dialog box actually allows you to edit the tooltip, which is kind of nice. There have been some tag improvements. It's probably more for the architectural or structural folks, but what I like showing on this is the fact that the tags will now stay locked to the things that you've put the tags on, regardless of how you've manipulated the little elbow. All right, now, finally, some of the MEP engineering enhancements, calculation methods for pressure drop. You now have the ability to go into the Manage MEP mechanical settings, look at the calculations, and change the way the calculations are being done. In 2014, they added the actual calculations just to show those who were questioning what calculations are being done. Now you actually have the ability to change which calculation method is being used right here. Okay. Tap, duct, and pipe tags. Now you have the ability to tag ducts before and after taps and get multiple values in a tag. That wasn't happening in previous versions. Oops, again, hitting the wrong button. Sorry, electrical folks. The what you've got as far as enhancements on the electrical side is now you can create wire shapes, you can modify wire properties, and you can actually remove the vertices very easily. So that's the extent of what they've done for us on the electrical side. And the second to the last slide, I believe it is, well, I guess technically it's not the only electrical improvement or enhancement that they've made unless you're in Japan. So if you have a need for Japanese electrical content, you can now get that, and you also have the ability to get the AWWA content for the U.S. That used to be a subscription-only add-in in the 2012 versions. Now they've kind of rolled that in, so you do have that content. So there is the extent of my slides.